Okay, let us start. Chalo. Share. I'm going to share my screen now. All right. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to learn about fluid filled systems, which are the most important part of critical care. All right. Now, everything that we talk about in hemodynamics, unless you understand this basic, it is not all doesn't make any sense at all. Whatever pressures we are monitoring in our body, let it be systemic blood pressure, let it be pulmonary blood pressure, let it be intra-abdominal pressure, let it be intracranial pressure. All pressure monitoring devices have got something in common, and that common thing is fluid filled catheters. That is the most important thing. Fluid filled catheters are what we see in every system. We see fluid filled catheters. Okay, all these systems require fluid filled. Without the fluid filled catheters, we cannot do hemodynamic monitoring. All right. So we can monitor systemic blood pressure. We can monitor pulmonary blood pressure. We can monitor intra-abdominal pressure, and we can monitor intracranial pressure. You are very well associated. You very well seen systemic blood pressure. That is the arterial lines, central venous lines. We are monitoring them not we are monitoring them through a device that is called as a fluid filled system. Pulmonary blood pressures, pulmonary artery catheters. Unfortunately, we are in COVID, so we're not seeing cardiac surgeries. Otherwise, otherwise, pulmonary catheters, you'll monitor pulmonary blood pressures. Intra-abdominal pressure, up till 3 years back, we were monitoring intra-abdominal pressure in almost every patient. In almost every patient, we were monitoring intra-abdominal pressure. But of late, they have stopped giving those catheters because we were the only unit in the country monitoring intra-abdominal pressure. Nobody else was monitoring intra-abdominal pressure. So unfortunately, these catheters are not available as of now. But yes, once we start the non-COVID section, I will get it. I have got a few samples lying with me, and I will show you how intra-abdominal pressure works. Okay, this also I will get for you. That is not a problem. You must understand how you monitor intra-abdominal pressure. It is required in certain cases to monitor intra-abdominal pressure. In fact, up to 2 years back, we used to monitor this so regularly that we used to pick up problems from intra-abdominal pressure. Okay, so that is intra-abdominal pressure. Intracranial pressure, unfortunately, you are in a Niharika, your father should be actually doing this intracranial pressure. If sir starts doing intracranial pressure, then we can probably monitor them on a regular basis. I'm actually trained for this. I'm trained to do this because I have done my fellowship in neurocritical care. So unfortunately, we are not doing intracranial pressure monitoring. Okay, so any system in our body, in this fluid filled transducer system, will have these parts. You'll have a catheter, you'll have a connecting tubing, you'll have stopcocks, you'll have pressure transducers, you'll have a continuous flush device, you'll have an amplifier, oscilloscope, processor, recorder. These four things: amplifier, oscilloscope, processor, and recorder is the electrical system. This system is there in the monitor, whereas those above first four things, that is intravascular catheter, connecting tubing, stopcocks, pressure transducer, continuous flush devices, this is the one that lies outside. So the problems, when you have a problem, there is troubleshooting, the monitor never will have a problem. It is always going to be these four things. It is either going to be a problem in the intravascular catheter, it is going to be a problem in the connecting tubing and stopcocks, it is going to be a problem in the pressure transducer, or it is going to be a problem in the continuous flush device. So you should understand all these four things if you want to correctly monitor your patient, if you want to correctly monitor your patient or troubleshoot problems that you normally see. So how does the signal go? So this is how the signal goes. The signal comes from the arterial line. If you look at it, there is an arterial line here. It goes from the arterial line, that is a signal. The signal then goes to the pressure transducer. It is a small thing that you attach to your hand, that is a pressure transducer, or it is a small device that you attach on the volume view down there, that is a pressure transducer. Now from there onwards, it directly goes onto the monitor, and this amplifier, analog, microprocessor, bedside monitor, strip recorder. This is the part that goes inside the monitor. Strip recorder we don't have. But if you go to, there are machines in which if you just press a button, the strip recorder will come out from the monitoring. There's a printer inside the machine, but that we don't have as of now. But ours is up to the bedside monitor. If you look up to the bedside monitor, this is where you go. Okay, if you want the strip recorder, you can go to the central monitor. On the central monitor, there is a way to take the strip recording. So for example, you want to understand the arterial line better, you can go to the central monitor, select your patient and remove the strip. So in that there are strips. Clear on this till now? Clear on this? Again, telling the whole thing, what we are concerned with as of now is signal and pressure transducer. Why do you, this strip recorder part, the central monitor, why is this so important? Say tomorrow you decide, I want to figure out what happened yesterday, 12 hours back. So it should be very clearly visible on your central monitor. That is why all your patients should be on the central monitor for correct understanding of what happened some time back. So unfortunately, we are in COVID. I am not there inside. Others, I would probably, if you notice in the past what I have done, every day I used to come sit on that central monitor and observe problems that used to occur in the previous 12 hours when I'm not around. Okay, so the central monitor gives you the recording, and from the central monitor you can take a strip recorder. Okay, so signal, pressure transducer. At this moment today we are going to discuss between signal and pressure transducer the problems that can occur between that. Okay, now how does this transducer work? This small thing that you're seeing over there, this small gadget that you're seeing, this small blue thing, this small thing that you attach to the hand, that is called as a transducer. On the volume view, there are two kinds of transducer. If you see, there is one gray color transducer which is attached, and there is a small other usual transducer that you attach. Okay, so what does this do? It converts the mechanical impulse of a pressure wave into an electrical signal through a movement of a strain gauge. I'll explain to you what this is all about. Okay, you just understand this mechanical impulse is converted to electrical signal, and this electrical signal now becomes on the monitor as a number or as a waveform. So once more, mechanical impulse gets converted into a pressure wave of the pressure wave gets converted into an electrical signal, and this is this electrical signal that you see on the monitor called as the arterial wave or arterial pulse. Now this is how it works. So look at this diagram. This diagram will explain to you what it is. That small pressure transducer you see is what you are seeing in front of you. It is called as a strain gauge. This is called as a strain gauge. So this pressure transducer has got that small yellow color sensing diaphragm. What I have just put it as yellow, but inside it is not yellow in color. It is a diaphragm over there. That diaphragm is called as sensing diaphragm. It is called as a sensing diaphragm. So what happens over there is when your wave, say for example from the left side you are attached to the arterial line. For example, on the left side you are attached to the arterial line. From the arterial line a waveform comes, the blood pressure waveform. After all, the blood pressure is 120/80 systolic and diastolic. So you'll have a systolic and a diastolic. Now that wave comes, and the moment it reaches the transducer, it moves this diaphragm up and down. So when it moves the diaphragm up and down, that movement is a kinetic energy. It is a pressure that is coming from here that is converting into a kinetic energy, and that kinetic energy is taken up by the electrical signal, and that gets converted onto the monitor as a waveform or as a number. Clear on this? I'll repeat this once more. Say your arterial waveform is coming from your artery on the left side. Okay, from it is coming from there. There is a pressure happening. That pressure goes up and down, up and down, up and down, systolic, diastolic, systolic, diastolic, systolic, diastolic. That's the pressure. Okay, if you see in movies when the radial artery is cut, thak 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 karke blood aata hai bahar. Some, that's what that pressure is what is getting converted into onto the water column. Onto the water column. It is not the blood coming out. It is the water column that is there. That water column में वो pressure लगता है, and then that pressure comes up and down, reaches the sensing diaphragm. Then the diaphragm goes up and down. The kinetics of the diaphragm change, and the change of the kinetics of that diaphragm now relays into an electrical signal, and that electrical signal is what you're seeing on the waveform as a graph or as a number. Clear on this till now? Clear on this? Okay. Are we clear till now? Niharika, are we clear? So now what does this mean? That if there is a problem in the system, in the problem on the left side, that means from the artery onwards, okay, there will be a problem. For example, what could be the problem? If there is no water, can there be an impulse? There will be no impulse, because it is like this. You are sitting on this side of the of a pond and you're throwing a stone. When you throw a stone, the stone will sink at that particular place, but the ripples go up till the end. It is the pressure of the stone ripples that go up to the end. So that is what you're seeing over here. It is the ripples of that water that is going up. So if there is no water there, will the diaphragm sense anything? No, it will not sense anything. Similarly, if there is a clot over there, will there be a ripple? There will be no ripple. Since there will be no, if there's a clot over there, the diaphragm again will not sense anything. If there is air over there, there's an air bubble over there, will it sense anything? It will not sense anything. So simply saying, all the problems that will occur with respect to the water column will cause problems for monitoring arterial pressure. All right. Now let us understand what is the meaning of zeroing. Now when I say zeroing, now this is what, what is this? This is just a machine. Does the machine know what is 0, what is 2, what is 3, what is 120, what is 100? Hello? नहीं, मेरा लेक्चर आधा हो गया अभी. उन लोगों को कुछ आया नहीं मेरे को. They can, I don't know, you tell them, I don't know. मेरे तो चालू तो हो गया इधर. ठीक है, चलो. All right, so what is the meaning of zeroing? this transducer does not understand the pressure. You are going to teach it what is the pressure, this transducer. So to teach it what is the pressure, the transducer should first understand what is zero. If it understands what is zero, then the transducer can tell, okay, now the pressure coming is 100 or 120 or 130 or 140. Okay, so to teach it what is zero, what are we going to do? We are going to expose this transducer to zero. And what is zero? Atmospheric pressure. If atmospheric pressure is zero, okay, if atmospheric pressure is zero, now the transducer knows this is zero. So that is what we are doing with zeroing. That means we are turning the stopcock in such a way that the transducer is exposed to the atmosphere, and then you are going to the monitor and pressing zero. That means you're telling the transducer this is zero pressure. So the moment you change the stopcock, now whatever ripples come from the water, that will be taken as whatever pressure that is supposed to be. Understood this? That means where should I zero this? I can zero it at my station also. You understand? I can go and zero this at my station also, just to tell the transducer that this is zero. You understand? I don't need to zero it at that particular level. I can zero it wherever I want. You understand? This is called as zeroing. So zeroing can be done before you even start inserting the catheter, before you start putting the center line, before start putting the arterial line, you can zero the transducer. You understand? To zero the transducer, it need not be placed at a certain level. It can be placed anywhere. It can be placed on the ground. It can be placed in your hand. It can be placed inside the circuit itself. It can be placed inside the cover. You can zero it wherever you want. So ideally, what is the nursing responsibility before a patient, before putting arterial line, before the center line? The nursing responsibility is to zero the line and keep it ready. The nursing responsibility is to zero the line and keep it ready. So the moment the doctor inserts the line, the tubing gets attached directly and you see the pressures. So are you understanding? Is everybody understanding? What is the nursing responsibility? You don't try to zero it later on. You zero it and keep it ready. Okay, if you zero it and keep it ready, then the doctor will just insert the line, you just attach it, you will directly see the pressure. What you all do is something very funny. What you all do is you all first put the line and then everybody runs around to try to zero it, which is wrong, which is completely wrong. You don't do that. You run around to optimize the scale, but you don't run around to zero the line again. Zeroing the line again doesn't make any sense. You've already zeroed the line. You don't need to zero it 10 times. Okay, so once you decided to put an arterial line, the first thing that you do is you first zero the line. Before you put the arterial line, you first zero the transducer. You've understood what is the meaning of zeroing? Zeroing just tells the transducer, boss, this is zero. That's all it is trying to do. You can zero that line anywhere you all want. You can zero it in Nita's cabin also if you want. That's not a problem as long as there's a monitor there. Okay, so that's the meaning of zeroing. All right. Now the other thing that is a small transducer which you're going to zero. That blue color thing is a small transducer that you're going to zero. You understand how to zero it now, right? Open the transducer to the atmospheric pressure. That is zeroing. All right, and pressing the zero button on the monitor. That is the meaning of zeroing. Clear on this? Now, what do we also have? We also have something called as a have a continuous flush device. That small blue color thing that you pick up. That when you open that, it flushes the line. When you pull that up, it flushes the line. It flushes the line with the fluid at the rate of 1 to 3 ml per hour. So if you keep on flushing it now, it will just keep on giving fluid inside. So don't keep flushing that. So you don't need to have a syringe to flush a line. Please understand this. You have a continuous flushing device which keeps on flushing the fluid at the rate of 1 to 3 ml per hour. मतलब 1 ml per hour तो जाता ही है. तो मतलब in a full day 24 ml तो जाने ही वाला है. So if you keep on opening it up and down, when you open it, the fast flush feature will increase the flow to 30 ml per minute. That means if you pull the transducer up for 1 minute, 30 ml will go inside. If you do this 10 times, 300 ml will go inside. You understand? 10 minutes agar kiya, so 300 ml will go inside. So the fast flush feature, which means you're opening up that blue line, you're pulling up that small blue thing, will cause the flow to increase to around 30 ml per minute. Okay, so so it is not a good idea to keep on flushing that. If you keep on flushing that, you will give so much of fluid that the patient will get fluid loaded. All right. So why is it there? It is there because we want to understand whether the system is normal or not. Okay, so now this continuous flushing, how does this take place? This 1 to 3 ml per hour, how does this take place? This takes place because you have attached fluid at a pressure at more than 200 to 300 millimeters of mercury. Your blood pressure is 120. So when will it flush inside? Only when your fluid is coming at a pressure that is more than that. Others it will not flush inside. Others will come outside. Others blood will come outside. That is why the pressure in the bag should be somewhere more than 200. So 300 approximately is the pressure we want to keep, so that there is continuous flushing of that particular arterial line. Clear on this? Clear on this? Because if you keep it less than 120, less than 180, less than 200, there is a high chance that blood will come outside, and you know what blood does? It clots. The moment the blood clots, your line is gone. Now, once your blood has clotted, this means to say that the diaphragm will no longer sense anything. If the diaphragm does not sense anything, you are not getting an arterial line. As simple as that. That is why it is important and an important responsibility of the doctors and the nurses to keep checking this. Keep checking. Niharika, were you there yesterday morning? Yes. So what was wrong there?
So there were clots.
Yeah. How did that clot come? Because there was no pressure on that bag.
Yes, sir.
You understand the pressure on the bag. So it's important to get the pressure on the bag. Okay. So it's very important that there is the pressure in the bag is maintained. Otherwise, whatever you have done is you have lost it. That means your arterial line gets blocked. You have to insert a new arterial line. There is a chance of thrombosis because one clot makes new clots. One clot makes new clots. So it's important that you keep that line flushed properly, and that is the reason that you want to keep that fluid full. You don't need to add heparin inside. Long back we used to add heparin inside. We used to add heparin inside that's flush, that is flushing so that we can dissolve the clots, but we no longer do that because adding heparin in these small doses also can lead to something called as heparin induced thrombocytopenia. Okay, it can cause HIT. Okay, so that is why we have stopped adding heparin into that small fluid. Initially, we used to add heparin to that small fluid. With COVID, maybe we will start doing this because we are seeing too much of clotting. Let us see. Let us see. Okay, so this is our system. You have an arterial line, you have a transducer, and from the transducer, there is a wire that goes onto the monitor. There is a wire that goes onto the monitor, which then is responsible for giving you the output, right? So now, after you zero it, after you zero the transducer, you have to keep the transducer somewhere. So where do you keep the transducer? You keep the transducer in the phlebostatic axis. What is the phlebostatic axis? It is a mid-axillary line in the fourth intercostal space. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you have 4 intercostal space, just below that in the mid-axillary line, that is where actually you have to keep your transducer. Now, if you keep your arm here, your phlebostatic axis will come right over here on the arm, and that is why we want to keep the transducer right over here. That is called as a phlebostatic axis. You understood the phlebostatic axis? The phlebostatic axis is that part of your body where we assume that the pressure is zero. In the right atrium, your pressure is zero. In the phlebostatic axis, this corresponds to the right atrium where the pressure is zero. समझ में आ रहा है? The pressure is zero. That is why we are keeping it over here. Am I clear on this? The phlebostatic axis is the axis of the reference line for your transducer. Where is the phlebostatic axis? The phlebostatic axis is in the mid-axillary line in the fourth intercostal space. That means right over here. It's right over here. It's right over here. It is right over here. Now, when you keep the hand down, it is exactly corresponding into this area, and that is why we keep our arterial lines, transducers over here. So why is this so important? Why am I teaching you this? Because if you're going to use the volume view, where is the transducer kept? The transducer is kept on a stand. So that stand has to be in the mid-axillary line. That stand has to be in the mid-axillary line. You're understanding what I'm saying? It is mid-axillary line. So you cannot, if the patient's body goes up, the stand also should go up. If the patient's bed goes down, the stand also should go down. You cannot have the body going up, stand remaining where it is. It will cause problems because that is no longer zero. Clear on this? Am I clear till now? So the mid-axillary line is the one that we are using. It is called as the phlebostatic axis. When do you zero it? What is the protocol? The protocol is at least once during your shift, you should zero your lines. Okay, you should zero the lines at least once during a shift. It is important to zero. So this is where your phlebostatic axis is. It is a precise anatomical point of origin of the hemodynamic pressures being measured. It's that point. Fourth intercostal space, drop a perpendicular down, mid-axillary line. That is where exactly your point is. Okay, so this is where you have to measure your pressures. So if you want the right pressure, this is where the pressures will be right, because that is the zero reference point. All right, zero reference point. Now, what happens when you move the patient up? When you move the patient up, there is no problem. That transducer remains the same. It doesn't change. If you're going to keep your transducer on a pole, If you're going to keep your transducer on the pole and then you move the patient up, that will be a problem, because what will happen over there? The transducer will not move with the patient. The transducer will remain down and the patient will go up. Okay, if that occurs, then your pressures will change. Am I clear on this? So if the transducer goes on the ground, your pressures will go very, very high. Your blood pressure will be very high. If the transducer goes higher, the pressure will be very, very low. It's as simple as that. Okay, that is why if you suddenly find the pressures to be very, very high, check where your transducer is. It might be lying on the floor. Okay, it might be lying on the floor. Clear on this? Clear on this? So, so when you do lateral positioning, again there'll be a problem because transducer will go down. You're understanding? So in lateral positioning, your pressures may not be right. Okay, it's important for you to understand. So the transducers are normally attached either onto the patient or is attached at the pole of the patient or the head of the patient. Okay. Now that is why now what do these if the transducer is below the phlebostatic axis, the pressure will be erroneously high. If the transducer above the phlebostatic axis, the pressure will be erroneously low. Okay, so this we used to utilize when when we were working in Sion Hospital. No, we were very less people. We were only one doctor and managing some 100 patients, 200 patients. In ICU, we were one doctor and hardly any help we used to have. Nurses used to not help us in Sion for some reason. 1 minute, where are the nurses? रुजुता का माइक को मैं म्यूट कर देता हूँ 1 मिनट. Okay, so the nurses used to not help. I used to call them nurses used to come there to cut vegetables only. I mean, that was the only reason they used to come to the hospital. They used to come there morning आके vegetables काटते थे. मस्त स्पीड में काटते थे, लेकिन बहुत जबरदस्त उनका एफिशिएंसी था. एंड वो खत्म होते ही वो डब्बे में जाता था और फिर लोग ऑन द वे भी काटते रहते, क्या मालूम काटते रहते. वेजिटेबल उनको वेजिटेबल काटने का ही आदत रहता था, बाकी कुछ आदत नहीं था उनका. एटलीस्ट मेरे टाइम पे. अभी पता नहीं, अभी सब चेंज हो गया रहेगा, लेकिन पहले तो ऐसा था. मेरे को बहुत प्रॉब्लम होता था उनकी वजह से. सो उधर हम क्या करते थे मालूम है, अगर मैं नेक्स्ट डॉक्टर को बुलाता, नेक्स्ट डॉक्टर को ओवर देता था ना, तो ये चोरगिरी होता था. उन लोग क्या करते थे, वो ट्रांसड्यूसर को नीचे रख देते थे और बगैर ब्लड प्रेशर अच्छा है. उन लोग एट द मोमेंट द डॉक्टर इज टू मूव आउट ऑफ द हॉस्पिटल, मूव आउट ऑफ द आईसीयू, सडनली हम लोग जब जाके चेक करते हैं ब्लड प्रेशर एकदम लो है, ऐसा प्रॉब्लम्स हो रहा है. ओवर देते वक्त एकदम ब्लड प्रेशर एकदम सही रहता है. उसके आधे घंटे के बाद सब ब्लड प्रेशर, क्योंकि क्या होता था, वो लोग ट्रांसड्यूसर को नीचे रख देते थे. हम लोगों ने तो देखा नहीं रहता था, और जो ब्लड प्रेशर ऊपर, और फिर अपने पर आता था, अरे तेरे वजह से हुआ, ब्लड प्रेशर तेरे वजह से नीचे गया, हम लोग ने कुछ किया ही नहीं है. हम लोग का, मैं जब भी गया था ब्लड प्रेशर अच्छा था, तूने क्या किया, ये नॉर्मल होता था. So ये transducer के वजह से होता था. It's important for you to understand that transducers below the phlebostatic axis will cause the pressures to go erroneously high, and if the transducer is above the phlebostatic axis, the pressures will be low. ये हम लोग का ना सर्जिकल इसमें बहुत होता था. जब भी अपना सर्जन आते थे ना सर्जिकल रिकवरी में, सर्जिकल we used to have something called a surgical ICU. So सर्जन्स को ये सब कुछ नहीं पता है, बिल्कुल नहीं पता ही कि ट्रांसड्यूसर के बारे में उनको जीरो आइडिया है ट्रांसड्यूसर के बारे में. तो जब भी सीनियर सर्जन अंदर घुसता था ना, तो सडनली हमारा ट्रांसड्यूसर बेड के नीचे हो जाते थे. तो सीनियर से जाके बोलता, हाँ अच्छा blood pressure hai. So they used to always see good blood pressure only when we were working. That was because our transducer was always on the ground only. It was like that. Okay, so this is about transducer. So for you it is important to understand that change of transducer levels will change blood pressure. Now how does it look like? Now this is your arterial line. Look at your arterial line. The one on the left is a normal arterial line. So it's got a wave that goes up. It is called as the anacrotic wave. And when it comes down, this is called as a dicrotic wave. And this small notch over here is called as dicrotic notch. This dicrotic notch is the place where the aortic valve is closing. When the aortic valve is closing, that means in diastole, this notch is called as the aortic notch. It is this aortic notch that you should always identify that it is there or not. It is very important to see that. You see, it has got a smooth upstroke, a peak systolic pressure. So what your blood pressure is monitoring is this part. Your systolic pressure is this one. Your diastolic pressure is this one. All right. And then it again goes on. Systolic pressure, diastolic pressure, dicrotic notch. Now, look at what has happened to the next waveform. The next waveform, suddenly it has lost its dicrotic notch. The peak systolic pressure is almost gone. This is called as over-damped waveform. What is this called as? Over-damped waveform. This waveform is called as the over-damped waveform. Over-damped waveform mein you are not seeing a dicrotic notch. You are not seeing a peak systolic pressure. The waveform has become smaller. Okay, and the pressures on your screen will show lower pressures. As simple as that. This is called as over-damped waveform. This is called as over-damped waveform. Similarly, if you see the next screen, you have normal, you have under-damped. Now, what is the meaning of underdamped? See what has happened over here. This is normal. So normal is anacrotic wave, peak systolic pressure, diacrotic wave, diacrotic notch, and diastolic pressure. This is what you're seeing over here. Whereas what is underdamped? You have anacrotic wave, very high peak systolic pressure. It is going to up to a point and then coming down and forming diastolic pressure. This is called as underdamped. Underdamped. Both these waveforms are wrong because both will give you very different pressures. Overdamped waveform will give you low pressures, underdamped waveform will give you higher pressures. Now, why does this occur and how do we identify this? Why does this occur and how do we identify this? That's very, very important for you to understand. Why, how does it occur and how do you identify this? To identify problems of the system, you need to do something called as fast flush test. Initially, we talked about fast flush. Fast flush was we just pulled up that blue color small thing. When you pulled up that blue color small thing, there was a sudden movement of 30 ml per minute of fluid going inside, 30 ml per hour of fluid going inside. So fluid goes inside. So when fluid is suddenly going inside, what is the meaning? The transducer is exposed to the pressure on your bag. The transducer is exposed to the pressure on your bag. Okay. Are we clear? You're exposing the transducer to the pressure on your bag. Okay, now what is the pressure in the bag? The pressure in the bag is 300. The pressure in the bag is 300. So when the pressure in the bag is 300, where will your waveform go? When you made the scale on the arterial line, if you look at the scale that we looked at, what is the scale over here? If you look at the scale here, let's go back to the waveform. See, our scale was 150, 50 to 150, isn't it? Your scale is 50 to 150. This is your scale. अभी 300 अगर एक्सपोज कर दिया तो ये वेवफॉर्म कहाँ जाएगा? ये ऊपर तक आ जाएगा और फिर ये फ्लैट हो जाएगा क्योंकि उसके ऊपर जगह ही नहीं है. 150 के ऊपर जगह ही नहीं है. There is no place above 150. Since there is no place above 150, it will go up and become flat. That is why you get a flat waveform when you're actually doing a fast flush. When you're doing a fast flush, you see there is a flat waveform because you have kept the pressure between 50 and 150. It cannot go more than 150. So what happens? It just goes up and becomes flat. It reaches the pressure of that bag. So in short, if you don't reach the pressure of that bag, you will not see these kind of waveforms. Are you understanding? समझ में आ रहा है सब लोग को? Huh? So when you do the fast flush test, when you pull the arterial line, you will suddenly see the entire waveform going up, forming a plateau because it is reading 300 millimeters that is coming up from the bag. You understand, na? And that is the reason. That is the reason that you will see this kind of a waveform. But what's important for us to understand in this, what is very important for us to understand here is that it is going up, plateauing out, then falling down. When you leave it, it falls down. And when it falls down, there is one oscillation, two oscillations, and then it becomes normal. So a normal waveform or a proper waveform will indicate that it first goes up, forms a square wave, drops down, and then has got two oscillations, one bigger than the other, one smaller than the other. So one oscillation, second oscillation, and back to the waveform. When this kind of waveform you can see when you're doing fast flush, it means the dynamic response characteristics are adequate. That means this arterial line is okay and your patient's blood pressure has actually fallen. You don't have to flush this again. It is not an overdamped waveform. So for example, you see this kind of waveform, you see this overdamped waveform. When you see this overdamped waveform, now this could be either a problem of the patient or it could be a problem of the arterial line. Now you have to figure out whether it is a problem of the patient or it is a problem of the arterial line. So what will you do here? You will do the fast flush test. If the fast flush test shows something like this, that there's a square waveform and there is one big wave, one small wave, this indicates that this arterial waveform is okay. This is a problem of the patient. But if you have something very different, you have something once you have something like this, you see on the left side, on the right side, you have a square waveform, and there is do you see those two oscillations? No, you don't see those two oscillations. When you don't see those two oscillations, that means to say that this waveform is overdamped. Did you see those two oscillations? It was not there, right? Since it was not there, that is called as overdamped waveform. That means there is some problem in your waveform, and that problem could be either, if there is absence of bubbles, it could be either air, it could be catheter kinking, or it could be blood in the line, or your tubing is not proper. Okay, usually it is either clot or it is air bubble or kink. Clot, air bubble, or kink. These are the problems that you will probably get if you get a overdamped waveform. Okay, so in this case, what do? you just open up the catheter, you see whether there is any kink over there, and you flush the device with 30 ml with a fast flush. Don't use a 2 cc syringe. You don't. If you want to use a syringe, use a 2 cc. Don't use 5 and 10 cc. Because what will happen is when you use 5 cc or 10 cc, you will flush the line. If you flush it hard, the pressure will be so much that the arterial line will break. You know, the arterial line is so thin, it is so thin. You've seen that now, the arterial line is so thin. So if you give very high pressures, the arterial line will just break. It will never work anymore because it will get frayed. फट जाएगा अंदर से. It will अंदर से फट जाने के बाद it will not work. It is not going to work. You understanding what I'm saying? That is the reason that you use the fast flush. Use the flush that is there coming from that blue line from the transducer. Don't use the flush coming in from the syringe. With the syringe, if you use it, there is a high chance that you will push the syringe fast. The pressure will fray the line and the arterial line will no longer work. Okay. So that is the reason that you must understand what is over damping. Now, what is under damping? We had understood what is under damping in the previous this was under damping. This was under damped waveform where anacrotic wave peak systolic pressure was very pointed and that's why. So what is happening over here? The blood pressure was actually patient's blood pressure 140 by somewhere around 80. Now here suddenly your blood pressure of 170, probably more than 170 by 50. Okay, this has occurred. What is the meaning of this? What is happening over here? Again, do the fast flush test. We do the fast flush test and you see very high oscillations. That means there are two blocks, more than two blocks rather. See, this gone up. It has given 300 pressure, come down, then 1, 2, and 3. There are 3 bounces. And if you look at the second bounce, it is almost equal to the first bounce. The second bounce is almost equal to the first bounce. This is called as under damping. Fortunately, in our ICU, we don't see under damping because we don't use long tubings. We don't use excessive stopcocks for our arterial line, so we don't see this. But you may see this in cases, for example, patient has come from a CABG and they've used or neurosurgery and they've used very long arterial line, you know, line pe line laga ke rakha hai. Usme you can see under damped waveform. Clear? Am I clear? Swapnali, am I clear, Swapnali? Yugandhar, am I clear? Okay. Okay. So that is the meaning of under damping, right? Now let us. Have you understood fluid filled transducers? समझ में आ गया fluid filled transducer? Any questions on fluid filled transducers? Any questions on fluid filled transducers? Any questions here? Any questions? I assume there are no questions. So, any questions here on fluid filled transducers?